All right. Great. I am so glad to have some friends, missionary friends, with us today, Gary and Michele Gallina, who are with Commission to Every Nation. And we are partners with them financially, and just wanted to take a chance to an opportunity to introduce them to Church of the Apostles and hear a bit from them on what they get to do and how we can be better prayer partners and ministry partners with them. Gary and Michele, thank you for being a part of what we get to do at Church of the Apostles. And so I'd just like you to take a minute here and tell us about who you are and your family, if you would.
Sure. Okay. So we're Gary and Michele Gallina, as you said, and we live in Minneapolis, Minnesota currently. We have 3 adult children. Our kids are with 3 daughters. One of them lives here near us, about 8 minutes away, and she has 2 kids. So we have 2 grandkids that are pretty close. We have a daughter who lives in Vermont, and we have a daughter who lives in Europe, actually in Kosovo, where we used to be missionaries for many years. So,
yes.
Yep.
That's great. How is the weather in Minnesota right now? I haven't even checked.
Today, it's going to be a high of 60 and sunny all day.
It's crazy.
All right. Yeah.
Amazing. February 25th.
It's February.
Yeah.
It's usually snowing, but hey.
Yeah.
It's a gift.
Right. It is. It's amazing. It's amazing.
We take every day that way if we could. So,
Yes.
So I would like to ask you, how would you describe your call to missions? Something you've always thought of, or when did this happen? Tell me about how that happened for you.
Okay. For me, I came to know the Lord at 21 years of age. I was raised in a different denomination than what I'm in now. I had never really heard about salvation. I had met a guy at work that witnessed strongly to me. And then I met Michele in a university course at the same time. And I came to know the Lord. And then shortly after that, at the age of 21, 22, I felt strongly a call to missions. And even at one point, I had someone pray distinctly over me and for me that sort of confirmed that call. And that's sort of my journey of how I received that call.
Yeah, and I felt from a very young age that I wanted to be in missions, but then, life kind of takes over and you just start doing the next thing. So I had this, as a child, always wanted to do that. And then I just went to college and I started kind of on that path. Always knew the Lord, but just kind of got busy with going and doing things, getting my education, met Gary, and we got married. And as he said, he had felt that call to missions. And then we kind of fast forward, we served on missions boards, always had it in our hearts that what is missions? We wanted to be overseas missionaries. Somehow that felt like our call, even though missions doesn't mean you have to be overseas. Missions is sharing the gospel with whoever's around you, going into the world near you and far away. But we had both talked often about, we felt God was asking us to go physically somewhere else, but we just couldn't figure out what that was and what it looked like. And so we worked secular jobs, had our kids, went about life, served, gave, prayed. And then one day, the Lord asked us to go on a trip to Kosovo. And that's when a short-term trip. And while we were on that short-term trip, God really spoke strongly to us. This is the time. And at that time, our kids were 4, 5, and 9 years old, and the girls. And we were on that short-term trip, and we knew that God was saying, go home and get your kids, sell everything you have, and come back here and serve me. And that was 23 years ago. So that's...
We know we don't look that old.
Yeah, but that's it.
So where would Kosovo be at?
Well, Kosovo Yeah, southeastern Europe, and more specifically, a lot of people know where Italy is located. You go across the Mediterranean Sea and you hit Albania to
Uh-huh.
the east of Italy, and then right next to that, a little northwest of Albania is Kosovo,
Okay.
small country of Kosovo. Yeah,
Yes.
And that
And we
comes out of the
served,
does
go
that come
ahead.
out of the Balkan region? And was it
it
part of
does.
an old Soviet country
It
before?
was. Yes, it was part of Yugoslavia way
Okay.
back when, and it is part of the Balkan region.
Right,
Yes,
right.
exactly.
And
I
when
know
we
we have
went,
to get I know we're going to end up in a history of the Cold War. What's the Cold War? So we won't do that. But I'm sorry, Michelle, what were you going to
no,
say?
that's okay. I know that you guys like to talk about the history in the Cold War, but I want to tell you about
Yeah, yeah.
no, when we went to Kosovo, it was after a war. And we went, it was true, it was the Serbian Kosovo War had just happened. And when God called us there to that region, it was really to go in and help. We weren't sure what it looked like to be missionaries there. It wasn't clear. Gary wasn't a pastor. We were working ordinary jobs, serving in the church in ordinary ways, you know.
Right.
And when we went to Kosovo, they were just war torn and just in need of help. And so we went back to that country just to work with Albanians, just in a way, yeah, to help with reconciliation. And that's where from there we began, you know, planting churches and continuing in many different directions. But
Mhm,
initially, just going to that region that has been so torn
mhm.
with war and not unified.
Right. So tell me about where you're serving now. What organization and what are you doing in that organization?
We're with an organization called Commission to Every Nation. The acronym is CTEN.
Mhm,
And we like to call ourselves missionaries to missionaries.
mhm,
And that's really what we do. We have missionaries around the globe in Commission to Every Nation. Michelle and I, we are missionaries to missionaries in South America,
mhm.
most of Europe, and a couple countries in Central America. And what that means is that we stay in contact with the missionaries when we're here in Minneapolis in our home. We're through Zoom calls, WhatsApp, Facebook, different platforms of staying in touch, seeing what their needs are, praying for them, seeing how they're doing personally, see how their ministry is doing, and just stay in contact. And then the whole ethos of Commission to Every Nation is they want us, we're a pastoral care couple.
Okay.
There's 8 of us with Commission to Every Nation. We have that part of the world that I just mentioned. Other couples have other parts of the world.
Yep.
And so they want us to go in and visit our missionaries face to face on the field at least every 18 to 24 months.
Okay.
And we think that's really good because when we served on the field, we loved when people came to visit us. And when we knew they were coming, they were concerned about our ministry, but they were also concerned about us
Yeah.
as people.
That's
And
right.
so we feel a great privilege to give that back to other missionaries now. And
Mhm.
we serve under us, we have about 54 missionary families.
Wow.
So we stay busy.
Yeah.
It's a good busy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what does a trip look like when you put one together? I mean, that's you got to cover a lot of ground.
Yeah.
You're the
So
trip
yeah,
putter together right here.
right. Of course, in our ministry, we tend to we work together, but we also have different skill sets, and so we can also divide some of the tasks that come along with the ministry. And one of them is I tend to handle a lot of the administrative parts. And so when we plan a trip, it just means that we are talking to our missionaries in a certain region. For example, we just came from Nicaragua and Costa Rica.
Okay.
Now we're headed in about a month, we'll be headed to Eastern Europe. We'll go to Ukraine and Poland, Slovakia, Czech Republic, France, and we have people serving in those countries. And so I'll talk to them ahead of time, try to figure out who's going to be in the country when, and then I'll just begin to map out a course of how can we visit them, and we'll and usually it's about 4 weeks that we'll go to a region.
Okay.
So we'll just begin to see what's a good time for you. Do you want us to be a part of a ministry? Do you want us to see if you're a pastor, should we come on a Sunday because you would like us to come to your church? Sometimes people, because we're going for the missionaries, not for their work,
Right.
they want us to come when they're available. So they say,
Right.
oh no, come on, Monday or Tuesdays to
Right.
because we have time and we want to talk with you because, because we're there for them. And so that's kind of how we plan a trip is we just,
You have to take big blocks of time and
Right.
cover a lot of geography.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
We said we do planes, trains, and automobiles all in one trip. That's a real
We've done them all in one day.
We have actually.
Yeah. So, in caring for missionary families, what are some of the needs that maybe it would help us to know about so we can be praying for you and for missionary families in general?
Well, I can tell you a few, and Gary can.
Sure.
A lot of the needs, again, are similar to the same needs that we have here in the U.S. that you have.
Mhm.
One of the challenges is because they're living in another culture, another language, there's usually not as an availability of outside help that we have available to us here in our own language, like pastors, counseling, just resources that are available. So I know that's not answering your question directly, but just saying
No, this is good.
that's that's what happens when we get there. A lot of times it's going to be maybe it's marriages, not necessarily a total crisis, but just a little bit of ripple is starting to happen. And anybody who's married knows that that's normal. And they just want to talk about that. They're having communication problems. So who do they talk to? Who do they ask? Maybe there's a problem with kids, teenage kids starting to do maybe some rebelling. Maybe there's a lot of times how to school their kids. Do they go to public schools? Do they go because there's language barriers? They don't have the money for international school. They don't know how to homeschool. So they want to process through their kids' education. A lot of times it's team problems. They're on a big team. They're trying to do some work and they're just having a roadblock with teammates. And they want to process that. How do I peacefully work with my teammate who we see things differently? And because they live isolated a lot of times, when we get there, those are a couple of things that come to my mind.
Yeah. Another one is something I don't think we normally think of. A lot of our missionaries, their parents are aging, right? And so those are big concerns, that their parents they have to figure that out, when do they go back and visit or can they, and how much time, and do they have siblings back stateside to help support the parents? And so those are issues that we deal with a lot and trying to help them think through, work through that, how they can be of help in that way. Yeah.
And also it makes me think too, back to the kids, is college kids. So it's parents on one side, and then you have kids that you send off to college, maybe in the US. And if they live in Europe, that's not an easy trek back and forth. So they're dealing with that issue. Their child's in college, maybe struggling a little bit, and they're in full-time ministry. So where are their priorities in that? So that's another common.
So some really good things, especially when it's around family and team, that we really need to be aware of and hold in prayer. So you mentioned Ukraine. I don't know if you know, but there's a war going on. You might want to check out.
Ignore that. We just ignore that.
You just ignore that.
No, we don't.
So tell anything we can be praying for specifically there with those missionaries, or how they're doing, or
I mean, I'm thinking of we have 3 missionaries there. 2 are actually in Ukraine. They're both in the western part for sure. The other one left right after the war with Ukrainian women and is now in Czech Republic ministering along with these Ukrainian women to Ukrainian refugees.
Wow.
So But one in particular missionary there that she is actually just recently, that's in the western part, that is in Ukraine. She has been taking teams into a city called Kherson. And Kherson is actually was bombed, is in the eastern part. They just feel led to do this. They have minimal food. They bring in food, supplies, basic stuff, such as heating, propane little gas things. And, they bring in pounds and pounds of tangerines, among many other things, just to bless them, to have a little treat for these folks. And they have really partnered with the church there. A pastor has stayed in Kherson, is there living, and they partner with that church, and they keep going in and just supplying them with their presence, their prayers, and practical things as well.
And I would say too, Dan, like praying for that and the safety of our missionaries, but also there's a lot of emotional strain
Right.
on them staying there. Like Becky is a single gal. She's from Canada. She's probably 30, late 20s, really felt led to stay and is doing a phenomenal job, but just it's like a lot of stress.
Yeah.
And again, talking about our role, she could be our daughter, but yet she's not going to call her parents when the siren goes off and she's in her basement because the siren says there's an air raid possibility, but she can call us.
Right.
And we're going to pray for her, and we're just as concerned, but we're not her parents.
Right.
And so
right.
there's the safety of, but we're like her parents. She said, it's just a great thing that she can do. She has a person that she's safe to call. Then when she visits these places and sees the devastation and the people, it's real, they carry an emotional stress. The other family is he's married, has a son. They're actually building an orphanage, and they're going forward with their plans. They're working, daily, but there's that stress all the time that refugees come, people are displaced, and, that is a real thing for them.
Right.
They may not be able to get gas from time to time, or their electricity goes out because there's power supply issues. And so these are daily stressors that add up over time.
Wow. Yeah. They're dealing with trauma themselves.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Yeah.
So being available in any way that you can is incredibly important to be a presence in their life in whatever way, even if it's over distance. So
yeah, like we're going to visit. When I sent the email to all of them, saying, hey, we're coming, it's like they're so happy, like you're coming, this is so great. And we talk with them on Zoom, we talk with them on Signal, we text. It's not the same. Those visits where we get to sit in their home and just really face to face is when that's the real blessing. And they're like, oh yeah, we'll do whatever, we'll change our plans, we'll help you, we'll whatever we can do. If you're willing to come, that's great.
Yeah, good. One of the things for us as a missions team at Church of the Apostles is the question we want to always keep asking is how can we be better partners? We love giving, but how can we be better partners with missionaries? And I was just wondering if you might have a couple of thoughts about how we can just do that in a better way, just some ideas.
Well, you always say the axiom or the age-old axiom, pray for us. And, that can be trite, but we really do mean that. And we mean pray for us so we would have the wisdom to speak in to the missionaries' lives. Pray for missionaries that we serve. What we try to do and what we have been doing is before we go on a trip, we'll send all our supporters, churches, both churches and individuals, where we're visiting, what missionaries at what time, and it's their bio that's on our C10 website. So you can always find them there. But so how to pray for us, for the missionaries, when we're right on the visiting them. I've been recently trying to do some videos when we're on a trip where I actually have a WhatsApp group. We have a WhatsApp group. It's called Gallina's Partners in Ministry. If you want to be part of that group, I'm happy to add you there.
Great.
in real time, you can get some videos of, hey, pray for this, or this is who we just visited. This is what's going on. This is how you can pray for us, where we're at, all of the above. So you could do that. You can find us on Facebook, Gary and Michele Gallina, and I try to post those real-time videos as well on Facebook. You can follow us there.
Great.
You let us know through Facebook. We'll put you on our newsletter mailing list.
Great.
Hold us that way, yeah.
And
Yeah.
also, I think for me too, it would be praying. What really helps me practically is also when I get that text from somebody that says, hey, you know, I know people are praying, but I'm trying to go beyond that and say, okay, what else? What are some other things? Some people really want to know what's the practical thing. We're praying for you, but what else can we do?
Yes. Right.
Beyond prayer and finances. Those are
Right.
for sure big needs always.
Absolutely.
Like, just
Yeah.
those times, you know, like I have a few people, they'll just send me a personal text and say, hey, you know, I see that you're at this place today. I was praying for you this morning.
Wow.
And somehow I know they're praying and I don't need to know that because I know that, right?
Right.
But it does lift me up. It encourages me because I'm pretty social. I like to have that contact with people myself. So I get tired on these trips. I get weary.
Yeah.
I'm sometimes giving out so much that I'm praying for our missionaries and I want our supporters to pray for our missionaries, but I sometimes really need that prayer. I'm tired of sleeping in a different bed.
Right.
I say, oh man, I can't even wake up in the night and realize where am I? Because I get
Right.
up,
Yeah.
go to the restroom and I
walked
hit
into
the
closets.
wall, or I'm in a
Right.
closet. I'm like, wait, yesterday the setup looked different. And it's like one time we were in 19 different beds, and
True.
so I really appreciate when I get that person who says, hey, or asks about me.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want that to sound selfish, but I really, that's just a practical thing.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Praying for our missionaries for sure, but just like saying, hey, how are you doing? Because we also have kids back home with needs,
Yep.
problems, needs.
Yeah.
We have things going on in our life. And so it's like, when people remember that and they say, hey, then I feel like I'm getting that from them as I'm giving out, if that makes sense.
Right. Well, that's how we want to be better partners, is to
Yeah.
know these kinds of things so we can extend ourselves,
Yeah.
and help one another here. So we appreciate that. So we have a link on our site at Church of the Apostles under the ministry page. There's a ministry link. There's a missions page, and you have a link on there so people can go right there and also look you up on Facebook and follow you there. They can sign up to get your newsletter emailed to them.
That's a good way. The newsletter is really good too, because like Gary says, he has a WhatsApp group, but we send the newsletter with the video clips in it.
Yeah.
Also, so if people
Great.
don't want to do WhatsApp, that's something that is a good way if you want it in your email.
Yeah, so it's possible for us just to take this to ourselves, not just through the church, but each of us that are watching this can find that way to connect with you personally and just see how we can stay in touch.
Yeah.
All right. I so appreciate your time. Thank you. I know we've been friends for years, and I'm so deeply, deeply thankful for our friendship, and deeply, deeply thankful for us at Church of the Apostles to be able to partner with you financially and in prayer, and then be able to touch base from time to time and just see how we can just keep pouring out to you as you pour out for the gospel to these missionaries. So thank you again so much for that, and we appreciate it.
Thanks, Dan.
Thank you, Dan. Thank you. Thank you.
And thank
to
you
your
to
church.
your church. Yeah, so appreciate it. So appreciate
it very much.
Yeah, so appreciate
We appreciate it. Thank you.
All right.